Good evening to our viewers here in Ghana and online. I am Javon Vickery with the Friday, July 28th edition of the HGP Nightly News. We have what you need to know this evening. The Ghana government will start raking in oil money from the first day of production, an ExxonMobil executive says. The executive also confirmed that there will be lots of jobs in the sector for Guyanese. Royden James reports.
ExxonMobil's upstream operations manager in Georgetown, Mr. Doug McGehee, in highlighting a number of benefits oil production will bring to Guyana, said that revenues which are collected from oil production is expected to have what he termed a significant impact in the country's economy. Mr. McGehee was at the time delivering the feature address at the launch of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industries 2017 Business Magazine Thursday night at the Marriott Hotel.
The big thing, though, is the revenue that comes from the project. When this project starts, the government gets revenue from day one. I know that's a sore subject, but I'm not going to go into the details of that. But I promise you the government gets revenue from day one. And they're looking at, right now, at what's the best way to use that revenue.
With the development of the Liza field, there will be lots of contracts out. And in those contracts, it is said that Guyanese will be given priority.
If Liza Phase 1 development is all we have, and we hope it's not, but let's just take that. So we're going to have, a few hundred people. When we go into 2019 and 2020, when we're drilling those 17 wells and when we're trying to install all that kit out there, it's going to go up to 1,000 or so people. But then as soon as the production's up and running, it's a couple hundred people. You need 100 people out there on the FPSO. We'll have 100 people here in the office. That's direct. Then you think of all the indirect. So the service companies, the Schlumbergers, the Halliburtons, the catering, the security, all the other stuff. Now that does start to add up into numbers.
McGehee described their project here in Guyana as fantastic, noting that the country has world-class reservoirs and world-class oil.
We're excited. We're going to do everything we can and our partners can to make sure we bring first oil in 2020, and we're going to keep looking for more oil. Hopefully, you watch the paper, we'll find more oil. We're going to continue to look, and that's what we're here to do. We want to be a good partner with the government, a good partner to the people of Guyana.
The world's largest oil refinery company has discovered about 2.5 to 2.7 billion barrels of oil here. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. Local television and radio broadcasters need to get on board with the transitioning from analog to digital terrestrial broadcasting in Ghana in the near future if they are to keep their businesses afloat. Kristen Macklingham reports.
The world is moving at a fast pace in the field of advanced technology, and in some respects here in Guyana, there is some sloth to embrace a lot of the changes. However, this needs to be addressed urgently so as to ensure that local businesses, and by extension the country, are not at a disadvantage, says Minister of Public Telecommunications Cathy Hughes.
The reality is that in today's world, we either prepare and change, if not, we will be left behind. And that's what we're talking about this morning. How it is that we can embrace new technology, how we plan for the inevitable change that is required.
Minister of Public Telecommunications Cathy Hughes during a meeting with terrestrial television and radio broadcasters on Friday. According to Minister Hughes, the systems in the country are still on analog, while in many parts of the world, the transition has already occurred. She stated that the reality is that unless Guyana or the corporate bodies involved start manufacturing their own analog equipment, the terrestrial broadcasters will not be able to provide or purchase the equipment that the businesses are built on.
So there's no question as to how we have to move or the direction we have to move in. The issue is, how can we plan for it? How can we discuss the changes maybe in business models, in technology? And how can we move as a unified, productive sector forward?
Minister Hughes advised that the roadmap for the transition from analog to digital terrestrial broadcasting in Guyana be put on the front burner since there is limited time to do so.
The close-off date in many parts of the world is 2020. So we literally have 3 years to go. We may not make that date, but certainly we want to have a plan and a commitment. And if you think that other parts of the world have not done that transition, places as close as Suriname are making headway. French Guyana has already completed, and of course the US and many other parts of the world have completed the transition.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingham.
Thank you, Kristen. All divisions of the High Court are now based in one place in Georgetown, with the commissioning on Friday of a new wing of the Supreme Court building. Ayanna George has the details.
It was the brainchild of retired Chancellor Justice Carl Singh that the business of the High Court should be conducted in one place. That idea materialized on Friday when the Charlotte Street wing of the Supreme Court was commissioned. Acting Chancellor Madam Justice Janet Cummins Edwards described it as a breakthrough for the justice system.
All the divisions of the High Court are now under one roof, and this allows for easier physical access to justice for litigants and attorneys at law. It allows for easier management of the court and the registries and the saving of costs and expenses.
The acting chancellor pointed out that the new wing of the High Court, coupled with the newly introduced civil procedure rules, will be a boon to the administration of justice in Guyana.
These new rules then entails faster disposal of cases. So the timeline for first hearing of a case is now set between 2 to 28 days. And since these new rules have been implemented, that is within the last 5 months, we have to date 1,258 cases being filed. And of that figure, almost half of those cases have been disposed of already. So this is the context in which we must view the new structure which have added to the juridical landscape of the High Court.
It is also envisaged that the newly commissioned building will be equipped with facilities that will usher in wide-ranging changes in the judicial landscape in Georgetown.
This new wing will accommodate courtrooms with modern technology, as we are hoping to have it in the not-too-distant future. We're looking forward to have what is termed an e-judiciary. This is indeed a new era for the High Court in Georgetown, and we see this new building as the start of a modern era involving changes which will improve access to justice, delivery, and dispensation of justice.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayanna George.
Assistant Commissioner of Police David Ramnarine on Friday admitted that the alleged plot to kill President David Granger was not properly investigated by the Guyana Police Force. He said there were red flags during the investigation period. Here is more. It was Mr. Ramnarine's turn to face the commission, and based on his statement, it seems that there were several red flags during the investigation period.
Do you think, with regards to all you know in relation to this matter, that this matter was properly investigated?
Taking into account all the circumstances surrounding the conduct of this investigation, my sincere answer would be no.
That wasn't properly.
It was not properly.
Investigated.
Exactly so, not properly.
Let me ask you.
According to Mr. Ramnarine, in March 29 this year, while acting as top cop, he was informed by the crime chief, Wendell Blanham, about the alleged plot to assassinate the president. He further stated that it had also appeared that several reports were made to the police in Grove, but nothing much was done to follow up those claims made by the man who was supposed to be the hitman. After Mr. Ramnarine was briefed, he then cautioned the crime chief about the seriousness and the severity of the matter, which involved the safety of the head of state.
I instructed the crime chief, I said, notwithstanding, crime chief, that this appears to have its origin some 1 year and 3/4 in June of 2015. This is a matter which concerns the head of state. and you're to spare no effort to launch immediately a thorough investigation into the facts and circumstances and to keep me posted.
Mr. Ramnarine further stated that on March 30, during his daily brief with Mr. Blanham, he was startled after he inquired about the state of the alleged mastermind who was arrested the day before.
In that reporting period, I asked him, what is the position with the person who was arrested the afternoon before in connection with his alleged plot to assassinate His Excellency? And he said, the person will have to return today. I said, return today? How come? Wasn't he in custody yesterday afternoon? And he said he was released. I was surprised at that. I asked him on whose instructions. He said his instructions, because he does not believe the story by Andrew Gillard.
The alleged mastermind had returned to CID to assist with the investigation the following day, but according to Mr. Ramnarine, there were several glaring signs which he took note of while acting again as top cop in May.
On the progress being made with the alleged plot to investigate, to assassinate His Excellency, I was subjected to a number of questions and comments which caused me to realize that there was some indication about the possible involvement of senior members of the force in the very early stages of the arrest of one Nizam Khan, who was complained against by Gillard, and his brother Imran Khan.
In politics, opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo deems the Commission of Inquiry probing the police response to the alleged assassination plot against the president a total waste of time and money that is geared to destroy the morale of the Guyana Police Force. Let's join Royden James for the details in this report.
Mr. Jagdeo once had a man locked up for a middle finger gesture. Now he is saying that while he had been head of state, almost everyday persons wanted to get him killed, but he never ordered an inquiry during that time because it is his belief that persons sometimes say things out of emotions or because they are disgruntled. At a media conference at his Church Street office on Friday, Jagdeo said it makes no sense to launch a commission of inquiry to probe the security of the president when the entire country is fearful because prisoners are on the loose.
Where they're so concerned about their safety all the time that they have to create this aura and this suspicion that their lives are so valuable that they need to launch these major COIs.
Jagdeo described the COI as a charade, noting that the government had other options to investigate this alleged plot.
Now, if the concern that there was not an adequate investigation into the matter and that it was not treated seriously, all the president had to do was to get the head of the presidential secretariat to call in the people to the office and say, we are not satisfied that attention, serious attention has been given to this matter.
Mr. Jagdeo is not against an investigation into the threat against the president's life. He is against a commission of inquiry in this case.
But they opted for a public inquiry into an assassination plot on the president, or a so-called assassination plot, at the time when we are facing the most serious threat to law and order in our country ever. And what they're doing in this public process is going to destroy the entire morale of the police force. The same people who will have to now go out and apprehend these prisoners.
The inquiry into the alleged plot is currently being headed by retired Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Paul Slow. But in the view of Mr. Jagdeo, Mr. Slow left the force as a relatively junior rank and is now given the opportunity to interrogate senior serving ranks of the force. Jagdeo contends that Mr. Slow is an APNU activist, and he is sure that the outcome of the inquiry will be leaning on one side. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. New software made accessible to the country will further strengthen Ghana's anti-money laundering regime, and the U.S. government has provided the finances for the training process that is linked to operating this software. Kristen Macklingham reports.
This is part of the continued effort to protect the country's financial system and sector from money launderers, and the funds will greatly assist the work of Guyana's Financial Intelligence Unit. That's according to Minister of Finance Winston Jordan.
The government is also aware of the need for improved data collection and management from an array of pertinent sources, and better and incisive data analysis to effectively monitor and identify red flags and suspicious transactions that warrant deeper investigation. Accordingly, the government's acquisition of the globally recognized IBA software, which was developed by IBM, will allow the Financial Intelligence Unit to more easily map and import data and information from both structured and unstructured sources into the centralized repository.
Finance Minister Winston Jordan during a presentation ceremony with the U.S. Embassy at his ministry on Friday. Minister Jordan emphasized that with this new advanced software, officials at the FIU will demonstrate effectiveness through the use of this tool by committing to ensure that results are obtained.
The United States government has offered to cover the costs of the initial training and support services required from IBM. This timely assistance is not only an indication of Guyana's inability to meet such costs, but it also underscores the value of meaningful partnerships in our collective fight to rid our countries of contaminated activities and transactions.
Meanwhile, U.S. Ambassador Perry Holloway explained that his government remains committed to partnering with Guyana in the fight to eradicate money laundering and terrorism financing.
The United States government, through the Department of State's International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, is going to be supporting Guyana's Financial Intelligence Unit with the purchase of training and support services for the iBase software that Matthew was talking about. It is an intelligence database management application that enables collaborative teams of analysts to capture, control, and analyze multi-source data in workgroup environments.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingham.
Finance Minister Winston Jordan announced on Friday that fresh approaches will be taken to monitor money launderers in Guyana. Anna George reports.
The Ministry of Finance is keeping a keen eye out for money launderers as the ministry looks to strengthen the country's anti-money laundering regime. Finance Minister Winston Jordan believes that the country is still open to lots of money laundering threats in core sectors.
The National Risk-Based Action Plan, which emanated from the findings of the National Risk Assessment, will guide policymakers in their attempts to implement combating measures commensurate with the level of risk identified. There is no doubt that the employment of advanced technology has aided in the detection of money laundering activities, thus allowing prosecutorial and countervailing measures to be implemented.
He emphasized that money launderers are becoming more sophisticated, which places heavy and increasing demands on the authorities to deploy new and appropriate techniques to enhance the country's ability to prevent and detect money laundering activities.
The government is also aware of the need for improved data collection and management from an array of pertinent sources, and better and incisive data analysis to effectively monitor and identify red flags and suspicious transactions that warrant deeper investigation.
The minister further stated that the scale of money laundering and terrorist financing has risen globally. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana.
The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry has once again complained about taxation, particularly taxes directly or indirectly affecting the private sector. The chamber plans to advocate for some of those measures to be reversed. Royden James reports.
The private sector body believes that since the implementation of some of the budgetary tax measures, businesses are not the same since business owners will have to mark up their prices in order to cope with the new tax demands. The GCCI on Thursday night launched the 8th edition of their business magazine titled The Promise of Oil. It was at this launching that president of that private sector organization, Mr. Deodat Indar, made the GCCI's position known.
We will be advocating for businesses more than we have ever had before in areas such as advocacy for reduced taxation. These days, we believe, we kind of feel like we're under siege when it comes to taxation.
Indar stressed that in order for some of the taxation mistakes are not repeated, the GCCI will be pushing for representation on 16 state boards.
For agencies that interact and interface with the population and businesses in order to contribute to the development of the private sector and Guyana as a whole. Our advocacy is loud on issues such as parking meters in the city, VAT on private education.
The Chamber will be working in tandem with the Ministry of Natural Resources in some areas of the oil and gas sector and with the Ministry of Finance on the public-private partnership policy framework.
The success of the private sector is not only determined by economic development of the various economic sectors, but by operating in a safe environment. We ask those responsible for security of the country to keep the citizens safe so business can be conducted in a conducive environment.
GCCI remains one of the most influential and strongest voices in the private sector, guided by the 12 areas of the Constitution of the Chamber. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
The Guyana Business Coalition on Health Awareness hosts their annual awards ceremony. Here are the details.
Several individuals and entities were rewarded for their contribution to health awareness when the Guyana Business Coalition on Health Awareness hosted its annual awards for business excellence at the Pegasus Hotel on Thursday. The Guyana Business Coalition on Health Awareness spearheads several mental health and gender-based violence training workshops across the regions. GBHA chairperson Donna Benjamin is of the belief that GBHA will work to change the business landscape of Guyana through strong collaborative efforts to mobilize the business sector in response to HIV/AIDS and other non-communicable diseases.
This year, GBCHA was awarded a Global Fund project for $7.8 million Guyana dollars. This project will commence on August the 1st for the period of approximately 5.5 months. The project continues to strengthen the national response to HIV/AIDS in Region 6.
Ms. Benjamin says the aim of GBHA is to raise awareness on health through the private sector.
Much of GBCHA's work is centered on the promotion of the commitment and contribution made by businesses towards improving, but more importantly, to work as a medium through the private sector and other stakeholders to coordinate efforts aiming at improving health awareness.
British High Commissioner Greg Quinn says he strongly promotes health wellness, noting that GBHA has his full support. He further stressed on the importance of family planning.
It enables women to take control of their lives, to finish their educations, to get better jobs, but also to plan for their families, as opposed to potentially being trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty and deprivation. Studies undertaken in the UK have shown that for every £1 spent on family planning, governments save £4 on which they can spend on other things like infrastructure and other public goods. So family planning isn't just a nice add-on or a nice thing to do, it is crucially essential.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
Good evening, I'm Stanford Howe with the AGP Sportscast. We tell you now that the Minister of Legal Affairs, along with the Minister responsible for sports, Nicolette Henry, meet with stakeholders and board members of the Guyana Cricket Board. Nightly News will bring you the details in a subsequent sportscast. In rugby news, Banks DIH through their Coca-Cola brand are behind the Guyana national men's rugby team, the Green Machines, as they prepare to play United States Panthers for the Rugby Americans North Overall 15th title.
Guyana's national men's rugby team, popularly known as the Green Machine, will be seeking to reenact the script from 2014, when they overcame USA 30-27 for the RAN 15's overall title on Saturday, July 29, when they host USA Panthers. The visitors will be seeking to exact revenge when they take to the National Park Athletics Field on Saturday. Banks IH, through their Coca-Cola brand, has shown its support behind Guyana's Green Machine once again, as they did when the local Ruggers hosted and defeated Trinidad and Tobago on June 10 last month to reclaim their RAN South Zone title for the third consecutive year. At the sponsorship check handing over ceremony at the Banks IH boardroom, Public Relations Officer of the company, Troy Peters, related that he is looking forward to see this team.
In fact, Banks IH Limited, under the Coca-Cola brand, will be heavily supporting the Green Machine against the USA Panthers, that's the USA South Panthers, come Saturday. We look forward to another exciting rugby encounter, because I know against Trinidad, those who were there saw Guyana play to its full potential.
USA Panthers will be sending a strong 31-man team contingent for the match that will be officiated by Dave Sherwin, referee, along with Justin Colgan, assistant ref 1, and Kevin Merley, assistant ref 2. Speaking at the launch, patron of the Guyana Rugby Football Union, Kit Nascimento, explained the importance of the Guyana versus USA Panthers game.
We are at the top of the region. In equivalent terms, it's the same as the Gold Cup, CONCACAF Gold Cup. But it's generally not so recognized, and I hope the media will help the population understand that that is the level that we have arrived at in the sport of rugby in Guyana.
JRFU 15's Green Machine captain Ryan Gonzalez stated at the launch that he is aware of the physical advantage the USA Panthers team hold. That team comprises of even larger players than Trinidad and Tobago, who Guyana defeated for the Rugby Americas North-South Zone title.
With all what the weather has been done to us of recent, we're working on our technical aspect because we know, very much aware of the US, the South Panthers, their size, their weight, and they will be having some bigger guys than we played against Trinidad. So we're really working in our technical department so that we could really stop them at the gain line.
Coach of the GRFU 15's team, Shane Grant Stewart, said that he had not seen a lot of the Panthers team and that there is not a direct plan, but
our motivation basically is to win, regardless of what they have, what they bring to the table. We are, like the captain said, we are prepared to adapt on the field, on the day, to take this game forward.
As promised, Calvin Chatman will now update us on action in the Georgetown Amateur Basketball Association League. Pacesetters continue their winning form, and defending champ Colts clip Eagles' wings.
The first match on Wednesday, night 11 of the Banks DIH-sponsored Georgetown Amateur Basketball Association's tournament at the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall saw the Pacesetters Basketball Club continue their winning form from last weekend. When the Pacesetters last played on Saturday, they enjoyed a huge victory, winning 98-40 in the second division, as the woes of Pepsi Sonics Basketball Club continued in the league. On Wednesday night, all was well with the club as Pacesetters found the Cobras without venom in their 59-47 victory, played in the under-23 division. Tafawa Bailey, 13 points, continued to lead his team, as was the case when they lost the Eagles under-23 last week. Pacesetters Stephen Peters made equal contribution to the scorecard with an identical 13 points. For Cobras, Michael Lewis 9 points and Akeem Morrison 7 points were the top performers for the losers. The feature match of the night between current champions Colts and 2015 champions Eagles, who were unbeaten in this tournament so far, took their first loss of the 2017 season in the under-23 division. It was this same Colts that gave Eagles their first loss in the second division on Saturday as well. Wednesday night's game finished 89-49. The high-flying Eagles catapulted to an embarrassing 40-point defeat. Colts dominated the game from jump ball, showing Eagles little to no time in the paint. On the offensive, Colts stacked up and won as though it was a shoe sale. Timothy Thompson, 17 points, was the main man for Colts, supported by Jonathan Manger, 12 points, and Jafar Gibbons with 9 points. Kevin Higgins was the main man for Eagles. He scored a game-high 18 points, but with little support from the rest of the team, Shamar Huntley was the only other significant to the scorecard with 10 points, as the Eagles star player Travis Belgrave continues to nurse an ankle injury. Colts' Daniel Ramlagan spoke to HGP Sport after the game.
Well, coming up against Eagles, we have been very good rivals from a good while since we started playing together. So it was a tough game, nevertheless the score. They were actually #1 contenders coming into this tournament. So we had a lot coming out mentally because we're now restructuring as a team. And these guys have the chemistry and they've been together for a long while. So it was a lot of preparation put into this team. And the game was a good game, it was a well-fought game.
In more basketball news, Guyana's poor showing at this year's FIBA Central Basketball Tournament in the Dominican Republic continued yesterday, when they were beaten 115-48 by Puerto Rico. After suffering a heavy loss to Bahamas, 114-63 on the opening night, Coach Lugard Mohammed was hoping for his men to regroup and perform better against Puerto Rico, who were victorious against Mexico 67-53 in their first game. Kevin Wiggins, who had 32 points against the Bahamas, was the team leading scorer once again with 15 points, while Akeem Crandon had a double-double, 10 points, 11 rebounds. Apart from Wiggins and Crandon, Jahil Young had 5 points, while Nigel Bowen and Andrew Johnson each had 4 points. Leading scorers for Puerto Rico, Gianna Franco Gaffal, had a game high of 23 points, 6 rebounds and 4 steals for his team, while being supported by Jarrell Zapps, 20 points, Allen Quintan, 17, and Ernest Torres, 14. Guyana will look to end the round-robin stage of the tournament on a high when they face Mexico, who defeated the Bahamas 83-75. We tell you now in international football, suspended Spanish Football Federation President Angel Marie Villa has resigned from his role as Vice President of the UEFA and FIFA. He and his son Gogar was arrested early this month as a part of a corruption investigation. Villa, who denied all the allegations, has been suspended for 1 year by the Spanish Football Federation. In a statement by the UEFA, Villa will no longer have any official functions at our organization in view of the ongoing court proceedings in Spain. UEFA said its president Alexandra Shafran has accepted Villa's resignation and had thanked him for the years of service to the European football. Villa, former Athletic Bilbao and Spain midfielder, had headed the Spanish Football Federation for 29 years. Juan Luis Lares has been named as interim president. That's all we have for tonight's Sportscast. Back to you, Javon.
Thank you, Stanford. Acting top cop admits alleged assassination plot was not properly investigated. Guyana to rake in oil dollars from day one of production, ExxonMobil executive confirms. The finance minister announces fresh approach to deal with money launderers, and all divisions of the High Court are now operating from the Supreme Court building in Georgetown. Those were our major headlines for these and other stories. You can go to our website, that is www.hgptv.com. I'm Javon Vickery saying have a good weekend and join Royden James this weekend for the Weekend Review. Goodbye.